Well, guys, why don't we do this then? Everybody, why don't we go to open discussion? Because I think we're all caught up for this evening. You guys want to do open discussion now?
I'm game for it.
Okay, yeah. So let's do that. We will officially do open discussion. Yay! So yeah, I would say just try not to. Let me see. Everybody can unmute themselves, and then just I would say anybody who has ideas
it might help
share.
to do push to talk. Mute yourselves when you're listening, and then open up to talk.
There's a push to talk button in Zoom.
I just mean like psychologically. I think you could set it up if you wanted, but just you don't have to. Well, I'm gonna mute myself in between. I'm saying. I'll use that statements.
Yeah,
I just like to say, great conference, Tim. Great conference.
Thank you.
Very fascinating. And yeah, unfortunately, I have to go now. It's
John, thank you so much for presenting. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me to the conference.
Again, have a wonderful evening. As I said at the beginning of the call, I think that we're all kind of borderline exhausted. I know for me, it's everything just kind of started surging forward in September.
That means a great conference. Tim.
Oh, well, I mean, in general, the last couple of months have been just busy as heck. And
yeah, it's been a busy time.
It's all good stuff. I mean, it's just, it's like juggling, right? So.
Absolutely.
Well, anyway, very good. Talk to you guys later. Keep up the good work.
John, I'm going to be in touch. I love what you presented. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, well, if you guys, I'll tell you what, if you guys want, what I can do real quick is, let me do this. I'll show you kind of what I've been up to lately, which is,
Absolutely. You've been up to a lot. My God, the Tim Ventura channel, for anybody that doesn't know, you just world-class interview after world-class interview.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's how I found you, actually. I was like, wow, Tim's got so many great, and not just great interview persons, but the questions you're posing and answering.
Yeah, this is gonna sound cheesy, but I started doing interviews with the American Anti-Gravity 20 years ago, literally 2002, so 20 years ago.
Right.
And and looking back, I mean, I went through, as you guys know, I went through a big divorce last year, and it was like, I was just looking back, I was like, what I really enjoy doing, what do I really enjoy doing? And I was like, I really love those interviews. That stuck with me. So I started doing those again. So, what I've been doing here, I mean, I've just been going through working my network and friend of a friend, stuff like that. I've had a lot of UAP stuff, but I'm cooling down on UAPs. Part of that is because, as you guys well know, it comes and goes in the headlines, right? So right now it's kind of in a lull, and I've burned through most of the big stuff that I can get. There are other folks, like, for instance, Eric Weinstein, who has been doing work with Jeremy Reese. And so if you want to hear Eric speak on UAP, that would be on Jeremy's channel. It's the Alien Scientist channel. What I've tried to do, Martin Chiupa, he has done some really, in fact, this one right here, the audio was not the highest quality, but he had a few moments, especially the last 10 minutes, which was just powerful. So there's that. Michael Masters, I'm really excited to have interviewed him. He's a little bit more traditional, right? So he's talking about little gray men, essentially. But what makes him really interesting is he broached this time travel hypothesis. And him and Jack Sarfati, actually, and they'll probably get together at some point and talk about this. They're the only two people that I know of that are asking if UAP might be involved with time travel. Everybody else is focused on the extraterrestrial hypothesis, which actually I tend to follow myself, but I think it's worth exploring all of those.
Absolutely.
And then there are a couple that I'm really excited about. One of them is, so David Isaac was the first person that I interviewed on quantum computing. I don't know if you guys follow that, but quantum computing is surging forward right now.
Right. And IBM just tripled their quantum computation capacity.
Yeah. They're up to 433 qubits. And so I am hoping to have a few more on quantum computing in the near future. And then the other one was where it's down here a little bit. I did 4 of them. Tim Maudlin is a really good one. He's the president of the John Bell Foundation. And so this actually came out of Gary Stephenson. Gary did a paper about quantum communication and said that instantaneous quantum communication is possible. And I asked a few physicists and they said, no, there's no communication theorem. And so I started to do some research and I ended up with 4 interviews that say the no communication theorem probably isn't real. It's more of like a gentleman's agreement between the relativity theorists and the quantum theorists so they don't step on each other's toes. Basically, they're just saying you can't communicate faster than the speed of light because we don't want to deal with figuring out what that might do to relativity theory.
Of course.
But that, that doesn't, so that
we know what it's going to do. It's going to mess with a bunch of grad students, and that's all.
Yeah. And then I just have, a collection of other, John Alexander and John
I loved
Michael.
your David Brin conversation as well. Really
Yeah,
interesting
he had
ideas
some really
on
interesting stuff.
how science fiction's probably prevented a lot of the disasters that we could face,
So John Michael Greer, and I think I have another one coming up on this. He was talking about decline of civilization. I think I mentioned this in the last APEC. I think it's really interesting. For me, this is interesting to look at the long term. I have, everybody's all over the map on this, but I think a lot of people feel like the United States is going downhill. And so he was one who explains how and why this happens. Now, it's not a full theory, right? It's more like a good idea. But when I was reading his paper on it, if you look him up, John Michael Greer, catabolic collapse, he has a paper online. Parts of it fit perfectly. So it's worth a read, and then let me see, Michael Lind. That was, again, it's kind of the same theme. It's decline of the United States. He was talking more about military power and influence. And then actually, I just interviewed Vinod Nair on Friday. He is a lithium ion battery expert, and he also works on lithium ion and sodium ion. He kind of surprised me, actually. So I've been following that area. The end all be all of batteries, from what I'd heard, was something called lithium air. And it may take about 10 years before those become even, workable. But if that pans out the way that it's supposed to, you're talking about triple the energy density of lithium ion. And so what that does is that gives your drones like an hour to an hour and a half flight time. And that gives your Tesla 3 times the range that it currently has, which puts it over gasoline cars, right, in terms of range. So those are all good things. What Vinod Nair said was, he said nothing is going to displace lithium batteries in the near future, right? And again, we're talking conventional energy sources, not anything that's really exotic. But in terms of conventional stuff, he said lithium chemistries are where it's at in terms of the highest energy density. And he said that we're probably not going to see massive increases in that in the near future, but what we probably will see is much faster charge times. And so then it becomes kind of a lifestyle choice, right? Like, for instance, I got the Tesla Model 3. I got a used one that I bought this summer. Whenever I come home with the Model 3, I just plug it right in. That's the first thing. It's just a reflex. I just plug it in, And so I think what he's suggesting is that battery improvements will see faster charge time. So you'll still be plugging it in, but it'll be charging more fully, more rapidly, So that's kind of what I've been working on lately. And I have more coming, especially in terms of quantum, and then I have one that I'm really excited about on the singularity as well. I guess one other area, Zachary Kallenborn here. I did actually, since the last one, I did interview Gary McKinnon, and so I don't think he added anything new to his story, but he definitely reaffirmed everything that he'd said in the past. Zachary Kallenborn and a couple of other folks that I've interviewed, I've been talking with them about the drone thing, and that is really interesting. Again, it's not breakthrough technologies for APEC type stuff. Nobody's going to freak out. It's more of a paradigm change in how drones are used, right? And for me, even this was what's going on. If you guys aren't following it in the news, I got involved with this because I saw a story online and it said Ukraine flew a drone with a hand grenade into a Russian bunker. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting, you know? And so I started doing research on this. As it turns out, both sides in the Ukraine war, the Russians are using $20,000, what's called the Shahed 136 drones, $20,000 Iranian drone. They pilot those from, they have a base station, the same way that we do the Predator or the Reaper drones, right? It's a single command structure, goes up to a satellite or something like that. The difference being those are kamikaze drones. So basically it's just like it's kind of like a poor man's cruise missile. And so they are flying those to destroy all sorts of stuff in Ukraine. The Ukrainians are even more interesting. They have something called the Ram 2 drone, and they actually crowdfunded this. So they've got a bunch of really next generation stuff going on there. This Ram 2, if you look it up online, it looks like basically just a model airplane. It can drop bombs though, and they crowdfunded the bombs. They went to 3 different companies that had them manufacture it. And so you have both sides in this war using lots and lots of these inexpensive, what they call loitering munitions, right? And that's a giant paradigm change from the past. In the past, you guys probably know, like from CNN or something like that, our drones, the way the Predator and the Reaper are flown, basically it's like an airplane without a person in it. And it's got a missile and it's got cameras, you know, but the way that we use them is like an aircraft. What they're doing is cheap, disposable, and lots of them. And so I have a feeling that this is going to change the nature of warfare. And that was why I kind of wanted to cover that. So that's
absolutely good call on that.
There's some other stuff there that's interesting about the Shahed 134, right, which is the drone, the Iranian drone. And what I saw, I put a link in the chat talking about all the Chinese knockoff parts that they're using in the Ship of Theseus style to take apart, dismantle, add parts back, make as many drones out of a single drone as possible.
Okay.
And so it's funny because you were saying the poor man's drone. Well, they're going even further with that. They've gotten them down to like $1,000 because if you can mass manufacture and duplicate the parts, and the Ukrainians are really good at this, but the Russians are working with Indians and Chinese as well. So the idea of getting down to a explosive drone that's about $1,000 is kind of where they're at right now.
Yeah.
And the real reason they're not using $100 drones isn't because of the armor or the Kevlar. It's because of radio jamming technologies, which are requiring more expensive special radio systems. Otherwise, they would.
As well as the anti-air missiles and the defense against these drones, and that they're mass producing them so cheaply and so efficiently. Like getting back to what you're saying, Tim, it's completely changing the modern battlefield arena, because it's like those Stinger missiles, the anti-air ones, they cost like 100,000 or like even more than that.
But they're making Kublas for 7,000 now.
Yeah,
it can fly 80 miles or something like that, or it's like 30 or 50 miles at 80 miles an hour. So
and where's our slaughter bots at? Is that it? I think that's it. That's our slaughter bots.
Yeah,
so
there it is.
Yeah. If you guys have seen this one, and I'll replay this in a moment. Okay, this was 2017. And in fact, here, I'll do theater mode. It's a little bit bigger. So this is not real, but this freaked a bunch of people out. This freaked me out when I saw it.
Man,
it's just if day
to the core, because it's like, this is so possible as a horrible dystopian future that could be right around the corner. Like,
yeah. So the idea behind Slaughterbots was, yep, there you go. Lots and lots of drones, and each one of those drones has like a 22 caliber bullet in it, right? So again, the technology there is near future, right? This is not, we're not talking about warp drives. We're talking about something that's cheap, disposable,
right,
and really not that powerful. But if
it wouldn't take more than Gillette on propeller to,
yeah. Yeah, and so Slaughterbots here. What's interesting about Slaughterbots is, that it's very dystopian, right? And but yet we are pretty much there. And so one of the questions that I've been trying to ask with my, going back to my interview channel, there it is, and again with Zachary Kallenborn, and with a couple of these other folks. it seems like we are pushing full steam into this automated killing machine future, I guess.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like, for instance, and this is just kind of a thought, but okay, we had the Predator drone in the 90s, and I think this is kind of where it started. And as I understand things, I could be mistaken, they were in Iraq, they were in a pinch, and somebody said, look, we can put a Hellfire missile on this thing. And the Predator drone goes from being an observation platform with a camera to all of a sudden it's this autonomous killing weapon, right? And nobody stopped to really ask the hard questions then. So then the company that makes them said, oh yeah, we'll do that for all of them in the future. Okay, it becomes the Reaper drone, right? Which now you've got lots of these.
Bro, the Reaper just, and like, it's so next level because people can't even hear it, and it's like bang on missile to you, we just wiped out.
Yeah, so we go from the Predator to the Reaper, and then from the Reaper to the Shahed 130, 134, 136, something like that. And then the Ram 2, right? So they're getting smaller, they're getting a little bit more lethal in some ways. It's the kamikaze drones. So, you know, I don't know. The thing that troubles me is, you know, as a world, as a society, we've never really stopped to ask, hey, should we be doing this? You know?
We should, the next step is Terminator 3, or
yeah, well, or actually they have a name for that. It's Fedor. Let me see. Oops.
No, yeah, no.
Fedor robot. Where's he at? There he is.
Yeah, he's got a nice face. Look at that sweet little grin. It's like
there's Fedor. Now this was a Russian one. Dmitry Rogozov. Yeah, so they taught Fedor. There's your Terminator right there.
Maybe don't play that one. It says it's CNN. That might actually get us YouTube.
Okay.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll just
it'd probably be fun on my channel for whatever reason.
So in terms of Fedor though, let me see. Yep, and there's Fedor right there with a power drill driving. So what is interesting is the top part, this top part of Fedor's chassis, actually, if I remember right, they sent up right there. I believe they sent this top part of his chassis up to the space station to work on things. So, you know, it doesn't have to be a killing machine. It could be used for all sorts of purposes. But in terms of Fedor firing gun, which I just showed you guys, Dmitry Rogozov was there saying it can shoot a gun, but it's not a Terminator, you know, and then that begs the question of, okay, if it's a giant robot armed and killing people, then what is it if it's not a Terminator, you know? So I don't know. Again, I don't have answers to this. And
I can imagine it working really well at one of those like restaurants where it has to like cut up meat and throw it in people's mouths, right?
The thing that gets me is the reason that I mean, it's easy to say that we should ban these. The reason that our government probably will push forward with them is they can save lives too, right? And when you look at the total cost, maybe not Fedor here, but like drones and stuff like that, when you look at the total cost that goes into losing service people, as well as medical rehabilitation, injured service people, right? It makes it worth a lot of money for the government not to have American soldiers get killed.
Yeah, this is way better. So this is the funny thing. Like what you started with was really relevant. You showed pictures of these what do you call them? They're like flying stars. They shoot, but they also could have propellers and kill. The thing is, you can take anything and make it a weapon. You can weaponize anything. And something like this could be, like we just said, it could be used in a shop with kids making pancakes or something. It doesn't have to be violent, but what we need to do is come up with more and more excuses to get people out of those positions where why is there a reason ever for a person to be in war in a violent circumstance? I think that's what we have to eliminate.
Yeah. I think these are big questions. These are big questions, you know, I mean, and I think that we're reaching a point as a species where, you know, it's like nuclear weapons, right? I mean, so 70 years ago, nuclear weapons were one of those things where, you know, only one country had them and they were locked down, and then two countries had them, and now you've got nuclear proliferation, and it's kind of like, okay.
But atomic was also different because before the oil companies, atomic was like medicine, right? You could use atomic for anything. So we also have a weird thing to overcome our perpetuation of the banana republic reality. That's a question I have for you. Do you know like Strauss-Howe's fourth turning? You know the fourth turning?
No.
I highly recommend looking into the fourth turning, just because you were talking earlier about the economic and the generational turnover. There's an idea, this fourth turning, that essentially the elite or whatever system that's established, whether it's even a natural way this happens, wealth is accumulated for a generation. It's invested by another generation. It's enjoyed by a third generation. And then the fourth generation is loses everything because of the inheritance is taken and spent. And then it starts over again. And so it reflects in how economics work, that there are certain generations which are higher taxed, other generations which are more incentivized to build and invent. And I think we might be, some people think Strauss and Howe thought that we are coming up on the fourth turning.
Could be. Yeah.
I think a good
Let's
idea
go
for
positive
their
for
use
the ending, though.
would be
Death bots, slaughter bots, government. Like, come on, Tim.
Well, okay, no. The thing is, the same stuff that Tim just said, to be fair, could all be used for good. Weaponization, we just saw, but those same drones could be used to carry seeds, and there could be techno-Gaianism. The techno-Gaianism, I think, is the alternative.
Is to do that.
And that's why it's a challenge. Right? It's how you use it, and and it's, what do they say? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, especially when it comes to military stuff. So
discussion of it now, which is so crucial. And one last thing I have to say about you, Tim, is you're literally probably the world's best, technological journalist, for what you're doing on Tim Ventura channel, for real journalism and bringing it forward. You can't find it in the mainstream, and just the amount of quality content and people you keep putting forth. It's absolutely
thank you. Yeah. Again, I just,
APEC.
I'm not really trying to change the world. I just wanted to, I don't know. I got into
You've written such great papers, and then you started doing the more important interviews. So it's.
Yeah, well, and the reason I started doing the YouTube was because I couldn't keep up with the writing, right? The problem, writing has massive turnaround involved with it, so I just couldn't keep doing it.
Well, you are an artistic writer, so that's fair. But the conversations are huge.
Right, writing is actually more rewarding in some ways. I think it's more rewarding, but the problem is it just takes so much work. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 days for a few pages. So
that's true.
So I don't know. Other than that, guys, I think I'm just about all set. I could just leave it going if you guys want to do open discussion.
I gotta keep going too. Actually, I think
I have a conversation with Ping Trip after this, so I have to start preparing for that as well. But I appreciate it, and I hope that we set something up soon. We should definitely continue this. You guys are all invited. We do real science once a week at least with Bernie as Swapcast. You guys are welcome to Swapcast as well. We want to get this information out to as many people as possible and have people see these conversations because it's huge to see people that are like, oh yeah, no, I do know about that. Have you tried this? Right?
And also the Hutchinsons and the crystal battery builds that we're going to be doing
tutorials
with them, and bi-weekly, so twice monthly research and development private streams with them, as well as public development and community streams on the different channels going forward with John and Nancy.
Well, why don't we close up shop for tonight then? I mean, we've been going for 6.5 hours. Why don't we do that?
Hey Tim, I just want to say
a good use
sorry, Philip.
Would be for to repair the outside shell of its aircraft, and then it could, there's no human exposure.
Yeah,
the robots to do those tasks that you were showing, but to do the repairs if a spaceship is in orbit.
So I just want to say thanks. And I remember when I met you on LinkedIn. I think I thought that you were all like 100% mainstream, and then I sent you my manuscript, and then you said, wow, that's cool. I said, oh, few, and I was pretty happy that you
Yeah, well,
didn't
thank you,
reject
Phil.
it because
Thank you.
it was not all mainstream. So
Yeah,
thanks for that.
absolutely. Well, guys, happy second APEC anniversary. Why don't we close things down for this evening? I will feed my teenage daughter, throw some food in the door, and hope she doesn't bite my arm off. So
Have a great one. Take care of yourself, and
have a good
thanks
one,
everybody.
guys.
All right, thanks.